Bases drop, new round of SDH AM. Let me turn. Wow, I even forgot to turn this stuff on. All right. So, John, hear you there. Thanks for coming by, as you always do on a Tuesday. Busy show in a bunch of different directions because there's more to things than news that happens overnight, and it kind of goes sideways sometimes, and we got a lot to talk about in a bunch of different fronts. So, it is news, it is World Cup stuff, it is MLS, it is USMNT, it is USWNT, and it's also about gear and about travel. So that's kind of where everything is today. So hour number one coming up in about 10 minutes. MARTA came out with their new round of gear and basically looks like they're going to be sending me to the poorhouse pretty quickly. So what we did is we went over to MARTA and we were like, can we talk about this? Dwight Smith, the manager of creative services and the senior designer over at MARTA, is going to be joining us in about 10 minutes after opening kickoff to talk about this new line of gear that they've got. And I think, and Dwight, actually, when I talked to Dwight on the phone, it was, I may even wear some of this stuff on the air. And I'm like, I'm just kind of cursing under my breath. But we'll find out about how MARTA has designed all of this gear. And we're going to have that as a part of the discussion. So, no, Ricky, that's tomorrow. The Auburn, Alabama hotel room is tomorrow. We're leaving here this afternoon to head over to the Plains to watch the Road to 26, and we will be there tonight for Argentina and Iceland. Just keep an eye out on socials. We'll let you know about the vibe and everything. Going into the weekend, they had sold 82,000 for 87,000 capacity. Do not be surprised if it is sold out. So I'll have that report today, tonight, tomorrow. We'll be in an Auburn, Alabama hotel room tomorrow. So Dwight Smith, manager, creative services, senior designer for MARTA, is coming on in about 10 minutes to talk about their gear. Then we got to get into everything else that's going on with the activities involving the men's national team, the women's national team. We've got sound from Tim Ream. We've got sound from Matt Freese. We have sound from Emma Hayes. We've got our AST update where Jason talks about Spain. We have also on the board news out of Austin, Texas, where they have their new head coach press conference set for 11:30. So when we're off the air, Austin is going to introduce Jim Curtin as their new head coach. And apparently the way that it's going to work is that Jim Curtin gets to be pretty much the guy that gets to determine who the new sporting director is going to be. So the process is inverted. They bring in Jim Curtin at the end of this season. He gets to determine who the sporting director is. And so coach determines, sporting director determines path. Instead of top down, it is now Jim Curtin up. That press conference is at 11:30. News out of Montreal from Jeremy Filosa. And it will be not good news if you are a friend of CF Montreal. There's been discussions, and we played the sound from Don Garber when he took the tour of the Big O. And the Big O 2.0 is currently under design and is set for either 28 or 29 for its new release date. Glass roof, tower, the whole thing. And we'll find out what CF Montreal can do when they come to the table, and we'll find out how let's see how they're going to be responding. But it was not good news from Jeremy Filosa's standpoint yesterday when it came to the future of CF Montreal. And there's other stuff on the table that we may or may not get into. We've got to get into all of the injuries and all the news that's there. Kacey D is going to be joining us at 10 o'clock to talk about Major League Soccer, to talk about the NWSL, to talk about her coaching gig in TST, and anything else on her mind as we get ready for the World Cup. And then at 10:30, Karn Saxena, you might remember him from our friends at Fanpath. Karn has an update heading into the tournament as to where things are, and there are some other parts of getting all of your travel orchestrated together. Karn's going to join us at 10:30, and he'll let us know how things are going with Fanpath, and there are some elements to keep your ears out and peeled for when it comes to discounts, operations, that kind of stuff. So it's going to be Karn Saxena from usefanpath.com. So Fanpath, and use Fanpath on all the social medias. Karn's joining us at 10:30. Kacey D's joining us at 10 o'clock. We've got all the news and all the things and all the sound and all the stuff. And I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to call an audible here. I'm going to go ahead and just say that it's opening kickoff anyway. Brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Starting your day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy body, notes of walnut, semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff, powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. So we're going to make Dwight opening kickoff. We're just going to go ahead and crush it. I'm going to bring Dwight Smith in. And there he is, sporting the gear. Look at that, man. That is just out of control. Welcome to the morning show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right, so he's already rocking the gear. And what I wanted to do, Dwight, for those that may not necessarily know, I wanted to get into the creative process. I wanted to go to the beginning of the beginnings and find out, the ideas. And I wanted to kind of walk everybody through how MARTA has decided to send folks to the poorhouse with clothing, man. This is
yes. Where do we start? I don't know. MARTA's sort of had a long history with soccer, with our partnership with Soccer in the Streets and Station Soccer. So it kind of started there. And then you may or may not know, Atlanta United approached us a few years ago and said, hey, let's do a collab. And that's been going gangbusters. I'm sporting
yes, you
the
are.
shooter shirt, and still have some of these in stock. So if you see a pop-up, come on out and get yourself a shooter shirt.
Peddling the freight. I love that. You're in here for 2 minutes and you're already peddling the freight.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, with this new line that's come out, the new MARTA merch and the 26 line and everything, and this might be something of a universal question too, but how far back is the design process when you're trying to launch something? Does it vary from project to project? Do you have a deadline? Hey, we need it to be out by here. So then you work backward. How does the creative process work?
Yeah. So we knew we wanted to have this before World Cup. And so we've been talking about World Cup for years now. And so probably about 9 months out, we started designing the gear, the shirts. Knew it would be a long process for procurement and just manufacturing. These get manufactured overseas. Lots of things going on with tariffs and things. So we knew we kind of padded it best we could. We still, came up against the deadline. So but we're excited.
How many different versions of things, I guess, when it comes to designing it in and of itself, how many different incarnations does it have before you sit there and it's like, yeah, okay, we'll do this. How many pieces of paper and how many times sitting at a table did you burn through to sit there and you wad it up and throw it in the garbage can? How many different ideas did you have before you guys settled on what came out this most recent round?
So we've got a full design team here. There's 4 of us. I'm one of the designers and I manage 3 other designers, and we all got involved in this project because everybody wanted to design the kit. So each person probably did 2 or 3 different designs. So we had like 12 designs to choose from. And eventually, initially we were just going to do one kit, but we had a black version and a white version. We're like, heck, let's do both. Leadership said, let's do both. Well, one for match day, one for non-match day, and kind of went from there.
When you come and you bust out of the office and you're wearing the gear, what has the response been like when you're just kind of trying to have some peace and have a meal? It's like you're wearing the gear and you're just kind of, I don't know, it might be at a sports bar or something like that. And do people walk up, sit there and go, do they take their index finger and get really rude and go, like me? What's been a response when you wear this?
A little bit. You don't want to wear this stuff if you don't want attention.
True. That's true.
So I think we did a kit for Club World Cup, and all of the ambassadors wore these shirts, and probably most of the time we were not helping customers navigate the system. They were trying to buy the shirt off our backs. So
so and obviously, we'll tell folks to go to the It's MARTA merch section, but when you and the crew that's there, obviously you're going to test market the stuff and sit there and people sit there and point and go, hey, I want to buy that. when you're not wearing it, when you don't have your Superman outfit on, when you're Clark Kent and you're out there in the community and you might see folks wearing the gear regardless of how many versions back we are, what's it like for MARTA and for the design team to sit there and see people wearing all of the MARTA stuff? What's that moment like for you guys?
I mean, it's just a great experience. We're just thrilled to be able to do this, and the community seems to love it. I mean, MARTA's got a great brand. It's got a good look. It's part of the city, so you know, it's a thrill to see people wearing our stuff.
What's the easiest thing about the design process, and what's the most difficult thing about the design process?
So easy is coming up with the idea. That's the first 5%, and then 95% is execution, logistics, working through our contracts and procurement team, and all of the finding a vendor who can produce it. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes because we're not clothing manufacturers, so this is kind of a side hustle for us.
Well, but it's turned into a great hustle. I mean, don't get me wrong. The stuff is styling, and and that's kind of why I wanted to ask that question, because I would think that some of the easier stuff for you guys is that you have kind of a going into it anyway. There's probably this carte blanche of, hey, let's design, and we can be, we can kind of, hey, what about this idea, this idea, this idea? And I would imagine that the difficult stuff that a lot of folks don't know about, that's why I was going to ask that. That's why I'm asking that question, is because, yeah, it's great and everything for you and everybody at MARTA to sit there and design all this stuff. But then there's a lot of stuff that we, the public, don't know about. It's for us, it's like going to a website, forking over a credit card, having the credit card smoke on command from buying all the stuff. But all of
Yeah.
the logistical elements of it, I don't think folks understand how, yeah, it's great to design it and have the idea to design it, but to get it from farm to table, for lack of a better phrase, that's why I wanted to kind of ask that question.
So early on, probably about 6 months ago, we partnered up with a vendor. We found a guy we wanted to work with, Challenger Sportswear, and we had a lot of meetings with those guys. They're showing us different fabric options, different ways to sew the stuff together. So a lot of different options that we had to decide on, and it was a kind of a fun process.
So, all right, now do you go to like their warehouse and do they have it all laid out on a table with all the different options? I mean, is it like staring at a clothes buffet where you're looking at different things and it's like, well, hey, here's this fabric, hey, here's this design, and the flow chart works from there. You go walking in. What's that process like for you?
So we didn't actually visit their site. They sent us a bunch of samples. So we actually had 3 different vendors we were looking at. So we got samples from all these different vendors. And we're like, oh, hey, I like this part of this shirt. Oh, this is a great patch on this one. So, um, like kids in a candy store were like, oh, we can do this. Kind of sparked some ideas like, oh, all right, well, we'll do a 3D badge here. And yeah,
Oh,
lots of cool stuff.
yeah, no kidding. MARTA Manager Creative Services, Dwight Smith, Major Domo, part of the Major Domo-ness for creating all the new rounds of gear, all the MARTA gear that you see that's attached to soccer, and especially with the World Cup here, hanging out here on the morning show. Did you ever think when you walked in the door there at MARTA that you would be designing soccer clothing?
No, no idea. I mean, that's not what we normally do, but we love soccer here, and it's great to be a part of that experience, give back to the community with our partnership with Soccer in the Streets, and uh, just excited for World Cup. And you know, it's a MARTA's a great people mover for match day. So if
No-
anybody's
Uh,
out there's experienced, it's definitely the way to go. It's the only way I go now.
yes. How big a
Yeah.
soccer guy were you before this idea came across your desk? It's like, hey, Dwight, we want to do soccer clothing. Were you a big soccer guy going into all this stuff?
Not really, no. You know, I'd been to a few matches. I went to World Cup in the 90s once out in California.
Mhm.
My nieces played soccer. So, you know, just kind of on the fringe there. And been to a lot of United matches. My neighbor's got season tickets, and every once in a while he'll call me up and say, "Hey, you want to go?" So, yeah, kind of been building over the years.
I was going to say, so what I guess when it comes to the soccer community on the whole, what have you been able to learn as you've been more and more encased and engrossed in soccer? And I'm not just talking like clothing design, but as you say, with neighbors and such. What have you been able to learn about soccer on the whole that might have helped you in this process? This, soccer fans are like A, B, C, D, and E, and you store that information, and it may help in the design process. What have you been able to learn about yourself and about soccer along the way?
I mean, I feel like soccer fans is a very diverse community of fans. I mean, it runs the gamut. There's so many different types of people that are soccer fans. It's United matches are a little more accessible to people. I think it's a little more affordable than some of the other sports events. So you get a lot of families, um, young people that grew up playing soccer are fans, and it's just a lot of fun, you know.
It's martamerch.com. You go into the collections, there's a soccer tab. You hit that, and it is the light mode, the dark mode. See, for me, as much as I love the light mode when it comes to the travel lines, the north and the south, the north, south, and east, west lines, the second I would wear light mode, I would spill something on it. And so
Yeah,
it would completely and totally destroy it. And so that's why for me, I've traditionally just gone to dark mode and things like that. It's soccer balls. It's, less traffic, more soccer on the mugs and the t-shirts and the lids and the travel bags and the luggage tags. And is there something on here that's missing that you want to sit there and go, man, we ought to produce this stuff? Or are you getting people knocking on your door going, hey, well, why don't you do this? How much backseat driving comes from people like me to sit there and go, well, hey, why don't you add, more of the golf shirts? Why don't you add more like the three quarters? How much more creative services come from the outside world, like from people like me, about what needs to be added to the line?
not a ton. I mean, people probably don't know how to reach us, so but we're definitely open to ideas. We got a
Uh-oh, here he goes.
soccer ball we worked
Yeah.
on, and
Ugh.
we'll do all kinds of stuff.
Oh boy. See, now you're
Parker
starting.
hats,
Yeah, see,
right?
yeah, now that I've got. That when I saw that when the first line came out before the World Cup line came out, I was like, yeah, I'm going in that direction. So yeah, it is actually legitimately, it is just off camera. So
Yeah,
it's just off camera, the hat and everything. But yes, you have, and I will congratulate Marta for this, that you guys have taken a fair chunk. Oh, see, there's the scarf. Yeah,
this is a
see,
scarf.
yeah, see, here's the
20,
winners. Yeah.
it's a remembrance for World Cup 2026.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
going to
See
be a
that.
big thing here in Atlanta. So
I've heard.
we're, you may have heard of it.
Yes. So now I've got to get the 26 scarf, is what you're saying. But yeah, when
Yeah,
when you guys came out with the original series and you had the scarf and the train on the back, I was like, yeah,
love it.
this is going to be some serious smoking of the credit cards and all that kind of stuff. Um,
So I have to give props to the Atlanta United design team for that. They designed all of this stuff, and we just kind of approved it, basically.
you're like, yeah, that'll work.
Gave some input every little bit here and there, but
How much of this stuff do you have in your closet?
I mean, I try to get one of each.
Ah,
I don't have the ladies' shirt, but you know, my wife does.
yeah, I was gonna say, well, and the boss here, she, I'll come walking in with the clothing regardless, and I'll sit there and say, yeah, and it's like, hey, look at this, and she'll go, ooh, and then I go, yeah, I know where that means, and she's gonna wear it before I get the chance to, so I know exactly how this goes.
Yeah, sometimes I get the stop. Enough already.
Look, I don't get that, man. It is like Festivus gifts. It is the boss
Yeah.
wearing it before me. I get all of that stuff. I can't. It's I always enjoy how communities wrap themselves around sport, and for what MARTA is doing with World Cup / Atlanta United, and how you're becoming integrated with another audience to sit there and just give brand awareness and sit there and go, hey, look, we're a part of this whole thing too. It's been really cool to see this evolution, and I will screen share once we're done. I will screen share over the It's Marta merch, and I will scroll through it again and sit there and go, hey guys, here's what you can get, and here's what I've gotten, and here's where I'm in trouble. I asked this with this line just now coming out for you there at MARTA. So what's next, huh? What's next, Dwight? Come on now, you're 2 for 2. What's next?
What's next? Well, we got Super Bowl coming here in 2028,
Uh-oh.
and I believe there's some women's soccer coming up too.
Yes.
Atlanta Dream. I don't know. I mean,
Hey,
we're open to anything.
it's all solid, and obviously with what you guys have been doing with soccer here recently with United and this World Cup thing, it's tremendous. And yes, I'm going to the poorhouse. I hope that you are all happy about it. Dwight, I can't thank you enough for coming on and modeling the gear for us, and
Yeah,
showing here's
I
what's
got more too.
I bet you.
Show this.
Uh-oh. See, now he's going the Superman
I'm
route.
gonna have to disrobe here.
He's doing the Superman route with the ball. See, there it is. Yeah.
If you ever get confused on where you're going,
Oh,
you can kind of
see? Well,
look down and I need to be here.
well, but that's the thing though, is that with everyone coming from around the planet to be at games at Atlanta Stadium, you're saying that ambassadors should wear the MARTA gear. If anyone is lost trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B, all they have to do is stare
Yep.
at the MARTA jersey, and you can sit there and point out where King Memorial Station is in Inman Park. Yeah, see?
Kind of in the hub area right here.
Yeah, the Bankhead line and the Murphy Candler line and the Emory line. I know exactly where all this stuff is.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm glad we were able to connect on short notice, and
Yeah, me too.
modeling everything. And obviously, once we're done here, I'll show It's Marta merch, and I can't thank you guys enough. And so I know you're working on the encore, and can't thank y'all enough, and especially you for first thing in the morning dropping by the morning show to break everything down. Thanks for being a part of the morning show, and go get some brunch or some coffee. I think you've earned it.
All right, thank you.
There goes Dwight Smith, one of the grand exalted poobahs of the MARTA line. And so, and I mean that MARTA line in clothing, not like east, west, north, south. Come on, people. Not literally, figuratively, clothing line. Now, here's what we're going to do. I want to show this once again, and we're going to go to the MARTA merch section. And so here's what they have online. Legitimately, here's what you can do. It's MARTA merch. Summer of Soccer 26. You can go light mode, dark mode. Like I said, for me, it's going to have to be dark mode because I always spill things on light mode. And so there was the soccer ball that Dwight was flipping on camera. Less traffic, more soccer, with the mug and the T-shirt and the water bottle, all this kind of stuff. It's very, very cool. Great way to connect with everybody. And yeah, this is definitely going to be a situation where I will be purchasing some stuff, and the boss is going to sit there and go, ooh, and she'll point at it, and then it'll be game over because it's martamerch.com. And once again, thanks to Dwight Smith and everybody at MARTA for being a part of everything here and hanging out with us to kick things off. That is officially opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee, blackpitchcoffee.com. Starting your day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend, made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy bodied, notes of walnut, semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff, powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Dwight Smith, and that's the gear. That's the gear, folks. That is the gear. Dell is looking to get into the Discord because we are now in, and obviously we don't have games to pick yet, but I'll put the games in the Discord. But Discord Apertura is complete. It was a very, very close 3-horse race. 4-card has moved into the Campeón de Campeones. The Medio starts with the World Cup and SOT, for those of you that may have missed it. Soccer over there goes on hiatus for the World Cup, but soccer over there, Picks of the Week, does not. And so if anyone is needing to get into the Discord to be a part of Picks of the Week, Medio starts this week, and the Medio is specifically the World Cup tournament. Your Picks of the Week recap brought to you by me. Medio, winner of the Medio goes in to the Campeón de Campeones with 4 card. Clausura picks up after the World Cup is done, goes through the MLS semifinals. MLS Cup is Campeón de Campeones, winner of the Apertura, the Medio, and the Clausura. The Clausura, once again, goes from the end of World Cup to semifinals, through the semifinals in Major League Soccer conference finals. And then the winner of the Clausura joins 4 card and the winner of the Medio in the Campeón de Campeones. If we have a repeat winner, then it goes to whoever finishes second in the Clausura. I just made up that rule just now. So keep an eye out. Picks of the week. Medio starts this week. 4 card is in the Campeón de Campeones at MLS Cup. So that's kind of how we are. But SOT on hiatus because we're going to be flying around all over the place. And I didn't want to sit here and go, well, it might be, it might not. So Mondays, just kind of keep an eye on things, and we'll post stuff in the Discord. But yes, if you are looking to get into the Discord like Dell, then please find your way into the Discord, and you can get rocking and rolling here in the Medio as we get ready for who's going to be joining 4 card in the Campeón de Campeones coming up at the end of the calendar year in December. So, and then that'll be the end of Picks of the Week for 26. High and hearty handshake. Like I said, we'll figure something out. And then 27 kicks back in with the sprint season, and then we're off and running again. All right, here's the rundown of stuff. Because we talked about, once again, where folks are and what it's going to look like with the week with all of us. So here's where we are and what we're up to coming up as the week goes along. Obviously today it's us here, and then it's going to be Atlanta Soccer tonight. So you end up with Morning Espresso helping you out there. So Morning Espresso will be up and running, and that will let you know how to start your day. Once again, as always, for Jason, if it is a 10 o'clock start, then 10 o'clock is going to be a 3-dimensional experience. 10 o'clock starts will get you hour number 1 on the 92.9 YouTube page, and it will also put you into 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. That's hour number 1 if it's a 10 o'clock start. After 10 o'clock, then at 11 o'clock, the 3-dimensional experience shifts all the way over to the YouTube channel. So YouTube's going to be up and running the entire time, but 92.9 The Game YouTube channel gives you stoppage time, 11 o'clock and beyond. And that's traditionally how that goes. If it's a 9 o'clock start, then the entire element of the 2 hours should be on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. But Atlanta Soccer tonight, every night between now and the end of the World Cup itself, going through the 19th of July, I believe. SDH adds a weekend morning show, 9:05 Saturday, 9:05 Sunday. 9:05 Saturday, 9:05 a.m. Sunday Eastern Time. So in addition to what we're doing here, we're going to add weekend edition AM Saturdays and Sundays throughout the tournament. We are going to be all over the place doing remotes and hosting and all of those kinds of things. So just kind of keep your head on a swivel. What I would ask is that you set up your notifications for SDH on all your socials at Soccer Down Here. Then what you also get to do is lay it all out and follow me, follow Maddie, follow Jason, Jarrett, Nick, all of us. Sophia, Vanessa, we're all here. So if we're out in the community, then you'll know, setting your notifications to all of us. And we're going to be at remotes for Atlanta Soccer tonight. We're going to be doing SDH material. Maddie is going to be hosting up with Georgia Impact up in Reformation territory. And I think I'm joining her on Thursday. I think we're heading to Mazzy's in Duluth on Friday for the early, because that's when the U.S. starts. And then after the U.S. is finished on Friday night, you're going to get a stoppage time, but it's going to be later than late. And I think Mazzy's is going to be a great sport about this and keep open after the U.S. match. And so just to give you an idea about tonight, just to let you know. So tonight's broadcast plan is 10 o'clock, 92.9 The Game, Odyssey app, 92.9 YouTube channel. That's tonight. Mazzies in Duluth, 6 to 8 AST. That's at 92.9, 6 to 8, ahead of the World Cup opener against Paraguay. So Mazzies in Duluth, AST, pregame, 6 to 8, 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app. I'll be there for that, but I won't be there for postgame because of the late night start and then SDH AM weekend edition. So Mazzies in Duluth, be there Friday, 6 to 8. Like I said, we'll be at Decatur Watch Fest. We'll be at we'll be at Reformation and up in Canton and all over the place. So just set your notifications. That way you know where you'll be and where we will be, and we can all hang out together. So that's the rundown of what's up. Now, since I mentioned national teams, let's kind of get into that a little bit. And as the United States gets ready for Paraguay, it is going to be it's going to be a tough test, obviously, out at SoFi to kick things off. You had I think it was 5,500 yesterday watching practice in Irvine, California for the national team. And here is a couple of pieces of sound from Tim Ream and Matt Freeze. First off, Tim Ream about this whole experience. And here is my captain, our captain, discussing what it's like here with the tournament for reals only a couple days away.
Yeah, I think there's always room, in areas to improve. Obviously not happy with, goals conceded. I think that's always a big one that everybody, including ourselves, will look at. Connections and communication can always be, be even better than they are, and that solves a lot of problems. So, we'll look at video over the next couple of days and understand where we can be tighter, where we can be more connected. But if you look at the Germany game compared to the Senegal game, it was an improvement. And so yeah, we'll look at areas and make sure that everything's tightened and buttoned up going into Friday.
Comparing match number one or comparing match last to getting ready for this match. So looking at the first friendly, comparing the second friendly to the first friendly, and comparing that information to getting ready for Paraguay. Captain Tim Ream. So let's hear from Captain Tim Ream again, once again, courtesy of our friends at US Soccer and Veritone.
The mentality is always the same. I think the group is in a really good place at the minute. I think we've all been, I wouldn't say overwhelmed, but pleasantly surprised by the excitement and the buzz around the team and in the stadiums, and pulling up here with 5,500 fans ready to watch a training session is incredible. And I just think that we're in a good place mentally right now. It was it's been a long 2 weeks, a hard 2 weeks, but guys are in a great position, mentally, physically, emotionally, and ready to get going.
What he said, getting ready to get going. It's team captain Tim Ream. A couple of sound bites from him as they're getting ready for the matchup against Paraguay. And yesterday also, Matt Freeze was made available as a part of the conversations. It was Tim Ream, Flarin Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, and Matt Freeze. Matt Freeze was asked point blank if he had been told that he is the starter come Friday, and he said no, he had not been told. But he's just trying to be as ready as possible for anything that comes around, as are all the players getting ready for the matchup against Paraguay. So here's the conversation with Matt Freeze getting ready for the matchup against Paraguay coming up here in a couple days out west.
It means so much to be able to be in a position to inspire, the next generation, and there's a compounding effect to it. Obviously, we were inspired by the previous generation. Hopefully, we inspire the next generation, and the more we inspire them, the better the following generation will be. So, to be in a position to train in front of these people today, and hopefully play on Friday in front of all the fans and inspire them is such a unique opportunity and one that none of us take for granted. We're working as hard as we can, as focused as we can, to continue to leave the next generation inspired.
That is part of the mission for the United States as they get ready for starting the tournament, this World Cup thing that we're talking about. Friday late night at SoFi, and so that was Matt Freese. Obviously, everyone's keeping an eye out on Chris Richards and trying to find out what his health status is. First day that he was up and running and practicing with the squad was yesterday. And so 5,500 fans at Great Park in Irvine, 32,000 in the lottery. So you had almost like a 1 in 6.5 chance of getting yourself in the door. And Chris Richards, full participant in training, first time he'd participated fully since the roster announcement back on the 26th. Tore 2 ankle ligaments May the 17th back against Brentford. Missed both preseason tournament friendlies, Senegal and Germany. Came through running and cutting, no apparent discomfort, and signed autographs. Apparently, Christian Pulisic signed autographs for 34 minutes after practice. So, obviously, Chris Richards, you're looking at his availability and what it means going forward, because there are some absences that mean a lot on a bunch of different levels. Chris Richards is one of those. We did find out that Jurrien Timber, according to our friend Ben Jacobs, is out for the World Cup for the Netherlands, and they are now pursuing a replacement there. Let me go through Ben's notes and see if we're missing anything when it comes to the World Cup in and of itself. So let's see. Josko Vardiol negotiations with Manchester City over an extension. Al Hilal interested in Vitor Pereira as their new manager. Inzaghi could still depart this summer. Outreach to other names, including Vitor Pereira. Crystal Palace closing in on appointing Pierre Sage as their new manager with positive talks. Alex Scott valued at £80 million and plan to offer him a new deal. Liverpool, Manchester United have Scott on the radar. Spurs also holding an appreciation. Bill Foley, the owner, intent on keeping him, hoping he's going to sign a new deal, likely with a release clause. This was the case when Semenyo was extended last summer. Let's see. Kieran McKenna looks like his future at Ipswich might be uncertain. Fulham looks like they're ready to dive in with Marco Silva having been taken away from them. Carl Darlow is an option at Manchester United, searching for a backup keeper. His contract from Leeds expires this summer. United want to add another keeper due to the expected departures of Onana and Bayindir. Ipswich, by the way, has an £8 million release clause on Kieran McKenna. Let's see. Kieran Trippier joined on a 2-year deal. And let's see. Jurrien Timber out with a groin injury. Cheryl Geertruida is going to replace him. That was the information I was hunting for. So it was Geertruida is replacing Timber on the Netherlands squad. So that was the information I was looking at from our buddy Ben Jacobs, as he is busy on this particular continent for this tournament. So Tyler Adams also limited to gym work because of load management. Valerian Balogun referenced the opportunity a bit full circle with his personal journey. Ricardo Pepi didn't frame it as pressure, but a chance to play in front of the country and people. Matt Freese, as a part of his presser, said pressure makes diamonds, and I think we're a group of 26 guys that want to show that we're a bunch of diamonds. So that's your run with the men's national team as they're getting ready for Paraguay. Tonight in Fortaleza, it is going to be the women's national team in their second match of this 2-game roadie in Brazil to prepare them for the 27 World Cup. Emma Hayes does this on purpose. They had a 1-0 lead with a goal from Sophia Wilson, end up losing 2-1. So now they go from Neoquímica to Fortaleza, and it is tonight as a part of what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it. And I guess we can go ahead and do that now since we're thinking about it. So that's also brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. That link is important, helps us out, helps you out, helps them out. To add to all of your streaming services that you currently have, you get all the BNs, and I mean all the BNs, which means you get in season, you get French League, Turkish League, Polish League, you get Libertadores Sudamericana, you get ties to Tigo Sports, TIC with their coverage. And if you want to watch coverage that is wall to wall having to do with national team, TIC's coverage of Argentina is wall to wall. And it's a great watch because they are so engrossed in the entire experience. So you get TIC out of Argentina, TVV out of Venezuela if you want to add it, CDO out of Chile. You get with BN, you get everything on the African continent. You get AFCON, you get the U17 qualifiers, which have been going on. You get everything Middle East and North Africa, a lot of the A and B divisions, also in South American football. You get all of that at Fanatis at fntz.co/soccer down here. Tonight, it is ESPN Deportes, Argentina and Iceland. I will be there tonight, and we will have that coverage tomorrow and all on social. And we're leaving middle of the afternoon. We're treating it like a college football Saturday, leaving here middle of the afternoon just so we can get into Auburn. The head coach of the Icelandic national team had some really great things to say about the facilities because, as we all know, it just means Mas. And so we'll have that quote coming up here in just a sec. But Argentina, Iceland, scheduled for 9 o'clock Eastern. Spanish La Liga 2, playoffs continue there. Almeria and Castellón, that's at 3 o'clock. Fox Soccer Plus has Belarus and Burkina Faso at 12:30. FS2 has Hungary and Kazakhstan at 1. ESPN Plus, in addition to La Liga 2, has the Prinks Cup. And if anyone could show me a Prinks, I'd appreciate it. Birmingham Legion and Corpus Christi at 8 o'clock tonight. Fox ONE, Belarus, Burkina Faso at 12:30. Hungary, Kazakhstan at 1. CONMEBOL Nations League at 4 o'clock. Ecuador and Argentina on the plus. Paraguay and Colombia, CONMEBOL Nations League on FS2. At ESPN Plus on the women's side, Netherlands, Poland, World Cup qualifier, 3 o'clock. Australia, Mexico on a friendly at 5. Fox ONE has your CONMEBOL Nations League. HBO Max and Peacock have the matchup tonight with Brazil and the United States. That's at 8:30. And it is, once again, the back end of the 2-game roadie that Emma Hayes has done on purpose for the women's national team. So she was asked in Brazil about formation changes, style changes, and what it was going to look like. She said that she was not going to tell folks about any kind of changes philosophically, lineup-wise, and that was a refreshing answer. She said, I'm not going to tell you because I'm treating this as and I'm paraphrasing. Basically, she's treating it as a situation that is equally competitive to what they would be facing next year when they go back to Brazil. So anything having to do with strategy, formation, personnel, she wasn't biting. But Emma Hayes did say this about the experience and the why. Once again, courtesy of her friends at US Soccer and Baritone, Emma Hayes down in Brazil.
It doesn't matter how much you prepare for certain things. You just don't know until you're in it. And what I will say is, this is to the whole world. This is something else. The way football is played here, the way football's experienced here, the way the crowd leans in as a 12th player is, I've been here a few times as a fan watching football. Experiencing that as a coach was an incredible experience, and one that is going to intensify tomorrow because the double the numbers are going to be in attendance, and that creates all the challenges that you want to replicate that you don't ordinarily get when you play at home. The whole crowd is your own. You've got nice conditions, perfect conditions everywhere. You got, here we got to deal with these things. A culture that grapples and holds, fouls off the ball. A culture that, 1v1 is just their identity. So with that, it can feel like many elements of that play is almost like legal in the game. And my experience as a coach is like, accept everything that comes with the conditions, accept the crowd, accept the way the opponent play, accept that we might not even have good officiating at times, accept that maybe VAR won't go in our favour. Accept it and put it out the window. What have we got to do better? And so our work is tactically, how do we do that? And I don't want to talk about it because I'm competitive and I want to make sure our team's prepared tomorrow. And secondly, because I want to simulate this being tournament-like for us. So I wouldn't tell you it then in the same way I might tell you it in our friendly games. So I'm going to stick with that, knowing that the commitments that the players and the team has made towards tomorrow's performance, I will absolutely expect and demand it.
Now, that's the kind of soundbite you dig from a coach. And legitimately, that's part of the reason why in the show that we do here on the morning, I'm not afraid to run a 2-minute soundbite. 20 seconds gives you the thought of, okay, something could be pulled out of context, something could be, misconstrued, what have you. Obviously, with Emma Hayes, there's no real latitude to misconstrue anything, but it is important for us to let stories breathe. And when Emma Hayes goes on and the thing is also, I timed it. It was 2 minutes and 13 seconds. First and foremost, that did not sound like 2 minutes and 13 seconds because Emma Hayes was rolling and you can let her go. You wind up Emma Hayes, you get stuff like that. I'm going to play it in its entirety. I'm going to play coaches' sound bites in their entirety. For me, 15, 18, 20 seconds, you lose context a lot of the time. So when we're here on the morning show, that's why you're going to get 2 minutes from players, 2 minutes from coaches. You're going to get 2 minutes and 13 seconds from Emma Hayes and have it go by like a snap of your fingers. I think it's important to lend context to things, to let stories breathe, to let stories be understood to the depth that they need to be understood. So if I have Emma Hayes on a roll and it goes 2:13, I'm going to play the full 2:13. And she's on a roll and she wants a better result and she anticipates twice the number of fans that were at Neoquímica. It was 30,000 that were there, 327,000 at the gate. So good work done by the fans in Brazil. 327,000 gross, I think, at the gate for 30,000 fans to show up at Neoquímica in a hostile environment. And you thought that was hostile. Tonight at 8:30, it's going to be even more so. So in combination with a couple of different things, like I said, tonight I'll be on the plains looking at Argentina and Iceland. You'll have social media and you'll have reports and things like that. Yes, it's going to be on cable. You'll have a wrap-up story over at soccerdownhere.net. But I'll be there tonight, and we'll kind of look at the environment and the vibe and everything. Lionel Messi is anticipated to be playing. He did work out yesterday on the field at Jordan-Hare. How's that for a sentence? He did work out yesterday. There are pictures to prove it. And so you are going to have, from what I understand, you are going to have the standard flyover with and the introduction of the Eagle to the Argentine national team. You might even have two because both Indy and Oria have been seen taking laps. So it is going to be an interesting cross-section of college football in the South and football in the South as they get ready for the World Cup. So it is going to be an interesting dynamic in play. But there was a quote that was introduced, and Jason gets credit for this one. Peter Rauterkus, the Auburn beat writer at AL.com, from head coach of Iceland, Arnar Gunnlaugsson, on Auburn, quote, "I really like the mentality of the town. Everything is geared towards supporting the athletes. So the athlete's responsibility is obviously to work hard and do well. And I mean, you have outstanding facilities for all sports. So where it just means moss, and we know this. Now, the Icelandic national team is getting to sample it too. Apparently, they've been practicing there all week. They had the opportunity, I believe, to go actually play golf at the Jason Duffner Country Club, and they got to be at ease in Auburn. And the interesting elements of the contract that was posted for this particular Road to 26 event, our buddy John Arnold came up with the with the dynamic here. And so John Arnold and Adam Cole Bebe, if Messi didn't attend, it would be a $250,000 fine, basically. Unified Events, the promoter, running a series of pre-World Cup friendlies, Road to 26. They're using the Citrus Bowl folks as a part of the communications arm. And so the MOU said, ensure Argentina agrees to a financial penalty of $250,000 if Messi does not attend event, capital E, as a part of the team. If received, this penalty or the pro rata portion associated with the event, capital E, shall be contributed to gross event revenue, according to the MOU. They did a public records request and got the MOU. So 91,000 saw Messi attend but not play. Scaloni said Monday Messi would play, but they don't know how many minutes so as to avoid any type of risks. For the match, Argentina at Auburn, Argentina guaranteed $2.4 million under the MOU, bonuses reaching certain thresholds of tickets sold, which I imagine they're going to get. Because once again, 82,000 going into the weekend, and you were only 5,000 away from a sellout. Both numbers, and Iceland's getting at least 325,000, both numbers inclusive of all travel and related expenses. Mundo Deportivo reported that the Argentine Federation received $12 million before tax for a November friendly against Angola, which was meant to celebrate 50 years of the African nation's independence. Last tune-up before the title defense. So Argentina's getting $12 million and then bonuses. Messi doesn't show up. It was a $250,000 fine. Messi looks like he's going to play. We'll see what the lineup looks like for Argentina. How many minutes is it? Is it going to be the 4-4-2? Is it going to go back to something normal? Is it going to be GI at the back? We'll have all the answers for you tonight, and we'll kind of walk through it, and we'll see what happens in the matchup against Iceland. And the start times have now fluctuated, 8:30, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock kick, 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock, it's all over the place. So we were told 8:30. And so that's what we're operating on. But there'll be some before the whistle stuff and after the whistle stuff involving what we saw at Jordan-Hare. So we're going to be there. And, yes, we're going to be buying the gear, and it's going to be all over the place. Also, Michael's going. Good deal. It'll be good to see. Hopefully, knowing us, we will probably run into Michael and all of the everybody from the Casa de Michael that is going to be going. We'll probably run into him and – parking, treat it like a normal college football Saturday. That's all I'm going to say. So that's kind of where we're at when it comes to friendlies and all the activity. We do have our AST Rewind to get into. We do have stuff in West Ham to get into. Jim Curtin, the new head coach in Austin. We'll get into that a little bit also on the flip side of KCD. Karn Saxena once again joining us at 10:30. KCD joining us here in just a little bit because she's got a lot that she's got to recap with us. Considering the last month, she has been definitely a person that has been difficult to find because she's doing one thing or another thing or all the things. And literally at one point, it was all the things. She literally was doing all the things simultaneously, like MLS and NWSL, and one where she absolutely buried the lead. She absolutely buried the lead, did not tell us that she was doing the third thing. And so you end up with moments like this.
Enjoy Jillian Sakovitz.
I'm with U.S. Women's head coach Kacey White. Kacey, how would you assess the first half performance from your side?
Well, I think we're playing for, trying to get into a championship game. This is what you expect. You expect this type of intensity. We settled into it a little bit and started to figure out a few things and had some great opportunities. So I think we grew into the half.
I have to ask you, more than a decade after your own professional career ended, did you ever think you'd be the head coach of your former teammates again?
Coaching peers is nothing I ever thought I would necessarily be doing, but we have such a great group and they work so incredibly hard. It's just an honor to be here. Thank you, Kacey. Thank you.
So you bury the lead with us.
Sorry.
What was it supposed to be a state secret going into TST that you were coaching the women's national team?
Not at all. It's just been a little while since we spoke on here. I actually knew probably about 6 to 8 weeks before. And Heather had come to me and said, well, actually, Heather and Kendall Fletcher, who was my college roommate, she coached last year when she was pregnant. And she had missed the year before with an ACL injury. And I had assisted her last year. And they both were like, let's get coffee. I was like, okay, let's get coffee. Sounds good. We always get coffee every couple months. And the first thing they said was, we want you to be the head coach this year for TST. Kendall's going to play. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. But it was a great experience. We had such a good time. And it was, two of my great college friends being able to hang out with, and plus everyone else. So it was great.
Yep. So what did you learn about yourself as a coach, coaching in that rather unique format?
It was a year since I've coached in general, but I said it in that interview, coaching peers is very different. And like wrangling everyone in, a lot of excited, competitive type A personalities, myself included. But what I learned about myself was that I could do that. And it's a little daunting. I've got Michelle Akers on my staff, who 10-year-old Kacey would have been freaking out when she was like, great job this week. I was like, thank you, Michelle Akers. Love you. And I've even been around her for years. So that was a lot of fun, coaching Heather, telling her, what to do, and Kendall what to do, and Allie Long and all these people. It was just a great experience. What I realized too was that, everyone has so much respect for everyone on our roster, from our massage therapist to our athletic trainer to a head coach to a player. And that's what's really unique about our group that Heather puts together every year.
I was going to ask, did the players actually listen to you when you gave this, like, hey, I see this? Were they listening to their coach?
I think so. I didn't know how it was going to go. We had pregame meetings with scouting reports and how we were going to play. And I think at first, a lot of them know that I've coached, but they've never seen me coach or experienced me coaching besides one or two of them. So to see me in that environment and then to get into halftime, a lot of times I was just the calming voice with a little bit of tactics. Here's what we're going to focus on, because everyone's so competitive and into it. Mm-hmm. I had to figure out what's the priority. And I had the eyes looking right at me. So I was very humbled that I could do that with players that I have a lot of respect for and that I played with.
Very, very cool stuff. And you can go back on Kacey's Twitters and you can see like the interactions, because they had you wearing a mic and they had all of the behind the scenes stuff. So it was very, very cool. But yeah, it's like all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute. It's like she's doing that in addition to everything else. So we're in the World Cup break and we are in an international window for the women's team. We just played some sound from Emma Hayes as they get ready for the second match in this 2-game roadie in Brazil. She wanted to do this. She's like, we need to be challenged. We're a year away from World Cup, so we're going to go into this environment. We're going to, embrace all of the noise that's attached to it. And it's been kind of cool to hear Emma Hayes in all of this sit there and say, no, this is what we're going to expect. We need to do this kind of stuff. A lot of coaches wouldn't necessarily go down this road, and Emma Hayes is with the national team in the break.
She's brilliant in so many ways, and there's a lot of responsibilities as a head coach. One of the big ones is preparing your team, and preparation means a lot of things. And I love that she, a year out, says, we're going to be facing this anyways. Might as well now, and let's see what we're made of, and let's have something to draw back on in a year from now if we hit a little bit of adversity. When you're preparing your teams at the highest levels, whether it's youth national teams, senior national teams, you don't want those type of experiences to happen in the main tournament. So there's a lot of foresight in this, a lot of wisdom, because if you think about it, if they go there and they had won in a difficult environment, then you say, look what you can do. Look at this environment. Look what you did, how you withstood it, and you came out on top. So that's a win. If you lose, which they did, Then you use it as a catalyst and a motivation and saying, hey, this is on purpose. We're testing ourselves. This is why we brought you here. It's win-win. Even though from the outside it's a loss, it's a win-win from a coaching perspective, from a philosophical perspective, and then still to have a chance today to be able to get the win. That could go brilliantly well if they're able to come in and get that tonight.
18 caps for you, right?
Yes.
What was the loudest barn you ever played in on the road?
It would have been Germany, was the biggest crowd and the loudest crowd ever that we played in. So that's the one that pops into my mind as the biggest and most hostile crowd, but it was still a little bit more European. There was still like the clapping and the, you know, respect for the game in a lot of ways. I don't know. I definitely did some under 21 things in Brazil, which was interesting. But we weren't getting the crowds, of course, that the senior teams are getting. However, they were in these different neighborhood areas, and we would have all these people coming to the sides, and we were 19, 20 years old yelling at us and things like that. So you kind of experience different types of environments, whether it's the amount or just the people in the crowd being excited and getting after you a little bit.
How do you handle the hostile noise if you can't hear and you're trying to sit there and actually function? How do you handle noise from the outside so you can actually do your job?
There's different levels of noise. I think if you speak to most professional athletes, you actually block out a lot of it when you step onto the field. It seems a little bit strange that you can do that, but there's such a crystal clear focus when you go into a game that a lot of it can be blocked out now and becomes a little bit of white noise to a degree. Now, if it's really raucous and really loud and people are screaming at you and things like that, you definitely hear things. I mean, there's things that you hear along the way. But for the most part, my experience and a lot of my teammates' experience was, you know, just focusing on the task at hand, and you have to be so hyper-focused that you can't really take in anything else. Now, the noise part of not being able to hear one another, that's an interesting one. And that's where your experience of playing with one another becomes a very big deal. This isn't a national team moment, but I played at Navy in college, and they were doing chants and they were playing, and I couldn't hear from me to 5 yards away. And it was amazing as a college student being able to do that, but also it was like, I can't give you information, and it can be incredibly difficult in that regard.
The other national team, I don't know if you've heard this, but they're in this tournament coming up.
Oh, really? Is it a big one or no?
It might be. I don't know. 5,500 at practice yesterday out in Irvine. And as you've been kind of globetrotting and keeping an eye on things and enjoying Wrigley Field at the same time that you might be watching the men's national team, when you look at this World Cup and the U.S., what does it mean to represent your country?
Oh gosh, I almost become speechless when I'm asked a question like that, because it's such an honor. And when you step out on the field, doing it for the first time is a feeling like no other, of just seeing things come full circle. I think once you've started playing a little bit more, then you feel this responsibility, but also this like gift of being able to represent your country. And so going in and competing and giving everything you have is just an amazing, amazing feeling. And I still get somewhat emotional going to the game this past weekend in Chicago, watching and knowing. I think people thought, like, my dad probably looked at me like I was about to play, because I was like, oh, this is so great. Look at them. Like, they're coming out on the field. Like, I was so excited in that preparation for a world event and knowing what that feels like, because for the 18 times I was able to step on the field, I wore the jersey more, being on the bench, not getting into games, but being on the field was just such a wonderful experience for me. And I love seeing that for other people.
So then what was your first cap? And when you're standing at center line in front of the bench with the fourth, and the fourth wants to put up the board however they did it, what's that like for you when you get tapped? Hey, Kacey, go in. You're standing there at center line, fourth puts up the board, and you're going out there for the first time.
Most of my experiences with the national team were exactly that, was the substitution role. But my first cap was a start.
There you go.
And I had a unique experience in that regard. I was in the tunnel, closest to my really dear friend, Lori Klupney. And I looked at her and she could tell I had like emotion in my eyes. I won't say tears, we'll say emotion, but I was overwhelmed just seeing it all kind of come together. And she looked at me and she goes, "Get it together." and like a joking way. And I was like, this is amazing. And walking out of the tunnel, hearing the music play as we enter, I'll never forget that experience. And singing the national anthem for the first time as a senior player was unreal. But you're right. The substitution part is always interesting because you're waiting. You're like, can the ball please go out of bounds? I'm trying to get in the game. So even to this day, when the ball won't go out and there's people waiting, I'm like, oh, poor people, like get them in. Because I definitely felt that feeling a lot on the national team and waiting to go in.
So what were your takeaways? And I wish I'd known this sooner because Maddie was there. And she was covering it for us, and I think you both went to the Wrigley for the same Cubs game too.
No way.
Yeah, and so when you go on the road or when you come down here, let us know. So if we can go, what were your takeaways from the match at Soldier Field that you're kind of carrying with you heading into this week as they get ready for Paraguay?
The main takeaway I took was that we can compete with the top teams. I did feel in that first half, we had really nice moments. The problem is all moments matter. And so the first minute of a half in a World Cup, people punish you. I just talked about the lesson that Emma Hayes was somewhat putting her players in by being in Brazil. I hope that first minute was a lesson for our men's national team as well. You have to be switched on. How is Kai Havertz that wide open on a set piece in the first minute of the game when he's great in the air, he's a goal scorer? Those are the things that are going to matter. But if you look at the 90 minutes overall, I was really pleased with the way we played. There were some mistakes out of the back. I thought everyone had a high work rate, was working really hard. And I thought tactically we moved the ball well and did some really nice things against Germany.
Yeah, this is definitely evolving into a men's national team discussion. All right, so there have been two trains of thought on goal number one. And yes, feel free to properly hydrate because if you need to, don't worry about it.
Oh, my Tar Heel baseball team made the World Series, so I'm supporting them today.
Yes, and Florida State lost in the regional again. Thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome.
Yes. So goal number one, you were kind of getting into it a little bit, which leads us into a backline discussion, which will probably go in other places. Folks were wondering about Matt Freese and why he didn't go out and challenge. And then others were looking at Miles getting lost in the pick and not able to free himself from the pick. If you take it from the marking perspective, and you kind of got into that a little bit with Kai Havertz getting open, and then the idea of Matt Freese staying at home, how are you looking at those two elements of this? Because I didn't think that Freese could get there, so I thought that he might have made the right choice in standing pat. But then, yes, Miles getting lost in the pick and not being able to free himself.
I definitely put more of the onus on the marking because of how wide open Havertz was in getting into that space. I was actually down in that corner by the corner flag where I would have been like staring at Havertz, from like 50 yards away, but I could see how wide open he was. So I put a lot of the onus on that, especially with an outswinging ball that was floated in there. When it's floated in that way, but it's not high, I think as a goalkeeper, it can be really hard. I do think that I wonder the same thing. Could Freese have come for that? Yeah. And you hope for that. But if he comes and he can't get something on it, everyone's going to say he should have just stayed and set and tried to make the save, and the marking has to be better. So I think it's a little bit risky if he doesn't read it properly and isn't able to come to it. But the marking piece, you have one job. Stay with your mark. And I think it falls on that.
So then you end up getting an equalizer. And it was one of the purest, nastiest strikes I think we've seen in quite some time.
Amazing. Amazing. I was so excited about that.
And just mashed and hit as flush as humanly possible. Since you were in the crowd, I know probably what Maddie was looking at from the 200 level. What was it like in the 100 level staring at that when that moment happened?
Unreal. It was on the far side from me. But you could see it popping down to Robinson, and you had a pretty good view from the behind into the side of how he struck that. it was one of those that's in the net before you even realize he hit it. Like, that's how pure he hit that ball. And it was unreal. A moment like that. This is how I know I'm getting old. So I'm like, oh, I love that moment for that player. Like, instead of just looking at the soccer, I was so ecstatic for him, but also for the team to do what they did in that first minute and give up the goal, but to build within the game and then have an immediate strike like that. All those pieces are helpful for your team as they're in a send-off game ready to go. But what a moment for Anthony Robinson.
I'm going to skip past the Sané goal that made it 2-1, because then you get into changes and lineups and people are getting minutes and all this kind of stuff. And Chris Brady gets reps in the second half and all that stuff. I want to go to the end where we goes in on a challenge. I didn't think it was completely and totally off the rails. The German team did. They come and they're chasing after him, but then you see the teammates for Tim Weah come in from behind, and literally it turns into a standoff. I thought it was a telling moment that, yeah, look, fine, you want to come after us, you're coming after one, you're coming after all of us. I thought that was really telling heading into the World Cup too. I
love competitive fire, camaraderie, having your teammates back. All those things are positive. And I think in the media for years, some of that has been questioned, is like the passion and like the competitive fire and like, does this group have it? I think for 4 or 5 years since the last World Cup, that was spoken about a lot in the media. So moments like that where you come in off the bench, you go in hard on challenges, you stand up to opposition, and then you have your teammates coming in to support you. I don't mind it. I like that. You have to be a little off sometimes in some moments and like, okay, I'm a little crazy here. And that's okay. I mean, there's been so many moments where top players do things that are a little unhinged, but they're brilliant and they're genius. And maybe they're not all perfect, but I do think that you have to have moments where you see what your team's made of from the inside out. And I liked it.
I know. Yeah, this is truly evolving into a men's national team discussion, getting ready for the World Cup. Still don't know about Enciso. Might be 2 or 3 weeks. Big loss for Paraguay. I know Atlanta fans are going to be looking at Miguel Almiron and Matias Galarza as Paraguay goes in. Looking at the back line, Chris Richards got to actually be there and perform, and he was there, decent speed in practice, getting back to full song. That's the linchpin for me at the back because of what we've been seeing in a couple of friendlies and, needing cover for Tim Ream and all that kind of stuff. Chris Richards, how important is Chris Richards?
He's critical. I don't know if he is necessarily critical for the first game or two, but he is critical throughout what's going to happen in totality for the men's national team. I do believe we have a solid back line without him in there, but there's an X factor of what he can do, not only himself, but what he brings out in Tim Ream. You slightly mentioned it there. The partnership of center backs is critical at the highest level. So he has the individual piece of just being an upgrade in that position and being our starter, but also how he solidifies the entire back line.
On the right-hand side, probably Alex Freeman getting the start, and we got to see as far back as his time at Orlando City B, how much trouble he can cause. Caused it at Orlando, and then folks in the league were like, ooh. And so then he goes, and he's now playing in Europe. But to have him and probably Serginho Dest on the right-hand side causing problems offensively, you get to have a right back that isn't afraid to engage, whether it's on the outside making a run, coming in, underlapping, and creating issues in numbers games. When it comes to the folks that we don't focus on enough, who are those second-level names? Because I know we're going to talk about Christian Pulisic. I know we're going to talk about, all the big names that are attached. We're going to talk about Turner and Freeze and Net. Who of those names that we don't talk about enough do we need to be talking about more, do you think, when it comes to the success of the U.S. team?
Well, you mentioned one already, in my opinion, which is Alex Freeman.
Yep.
How he can adapt to this level and the moment and the pressure of it, because I do think our back line is absolutely critical, and the confidence that they build throughout the tournament is critical. I am a huge Alex Freeman fan. I think he has such a bright future ahead of him, not only from his defending, but his ability to join the attack at every level he gets to. He gets a little bit better of how he gets wide or inverts or whatever the case may be. It's just, how high of a level is it going to be right now in the World Cup? And I think he's critical in that. Another piece for me that I was excited about off the bench was Weah and Aronson. They were the two for me that came into the game and looked like they wanted to make a difference, looked like they could take games over. And especially Aronson off that left side, he was getting in the 1v1s. He was trying to get into the box, create things for the comeback. The reason I mentioned those two is because, in my opinion, they could easily be starters. So the first two off the bench or three off the bench, keeping your starters humble, hungry, competitive, or being right there to come in to spell that last 20, 30 minutes.
Right.
We know that all these games, a lot of them come down to the end. So who are those first few players that are going to come into games and make a difference? And I think it could be those two.
Okay. Where are you going to be Friday? You going to be at home for a change?
Oh, yeah. I'm home for such a long time, about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Yes, but I'm going to be home glued to my couch starting Thursday. I mean, maybe I'll go watch it somewhere, the U.S. game on Friday. But for the next month, 5 weeks, I will pretty much be sticking to my couch and watching games. So
there you go. Okay. Major League Soccer.
Yes.
And you've been in Salt Lake. You've been in Frisco, I think, since we last talked. I think you were in Houston again at Hell in a Shell. I'm trying to remember where else you've been recently.
Denver was my last game.
Denver. When it comes to, I mean, today we're having Jim Curtin announced as the new head coach in Austin. And it's interesting that Curtin gets announced and he'll be there at the end of the year. That's not the interesting thing I was getting to. But he's going to have a say in the sporting director search. Traditionally, it's the other way around where you bring in your sporting director. He or she has someone in mind. Then you bring in the coach. It's inverted now in Austin, and they're turning the keys over to Jim Curtin. Press conference starts in a little over an hour. It's an interesting hire, but they gave him the keys to the car.
And we'll see if it works. And going from the other direction, there's usually this process that's tried and true. And this one's a little bit different, but you have someone like him coming in with the experience he has. I think they might know what they're doing. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And it's just how quickly do those changes occur? Like you said, with him coming in at the end of the year, that's an interesting one because you leave the environment somewhat open. And what you get now versus what you get then could be a little bit different. So that's going to be interesting to see how they bridge that gap.
Yep. And Philadelphia is looking for a new coach, Bradley Carnell. It seems like, and this is the baseball analogy that I use, and this happened in St. Louis and then it happened in Philly. First time through the batting order, season number 1, you kind of don't know how to look at Bradley Carnell and how he's doing things offensively and how tight things are and how successful they are. He was found out, I think, in St. Louis in the playoffs when it was a best of 3, because if you go in, you see somebody once, it's a little hard. Then St. Louis City, with everything they did, top of the table, pie plate, and the whole thing, you get found out in a best of 3. Then he goes, has issues in year number 2, which finally still lets him go, goes to Philly. Same thing. Happens in Philly, successful year 1. Then year 2, second time through the batting order in the Eastern Conference, he got found out, and we were wondering what was going to maybe go down there, how much patience they were going to have. It turns out they waited until the break, and now Philly's going to have to rebuild from the bottom of the Eastern Conference and figure out what they're going to be doing from there.
We say this for players, might as well say it for coaches. The sophomore slump can be real. And when you come into a place as a player, as a coach, you are new. Everything's new. And players, staff, everyone want to believe that this is the right direction. And it could be. Mm-hmm. But there's this energy that comes with a new hire. And when you're in your first year and you're new as a player, you're new as a coach, a lot of times it can be easier to perform in that because you get more the benefit of the doubt, you get the energy, and then you can get things going. It's not that simple, but that is something that can actually happen from a psychological perspective. The other piece with Carnell that I think we always have to point out this year is the players that he lost.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't little players. They weren't small impact players. They were big impact players. But you can't also say that forever. Like, you got to figure it out. You got to figure out how to grind out a 1-0 result or get a tie on the road or whatever the case may be. And that piece just was not happening, and it wasn't turning around at a quick enough rate.
Yeah, backline is very, very young in Philly, and it's testing what they've been building through the academy. NWSL, and like I said, this has been greatest hits because we spent so much time on the men's national team. NWSL, you're very, very busy there. For those that may not know, how are you tackling the NWSL this year on air?
So I had 2 games in the middle of May, which was great. Just staying as involved with NWSL as I can, and then my next broadcast will be NWSL in July, where I'll be back on the air after my long break through the World Cup. But for me, like, the thing that's been so exciting is watching a team like the Utah Royals. We've said for years that NWSL top to bottom is the most competitive, the hardest league in the world. And I truly believe that. And you have a team like the Utah Royals who have perennially been at the bottom, and they've stuck by their coach. So to your point, we're just talking about Carnell, but they stuck by Jimmy Coonrotz because the tactics, I have thought for years, have looked really sound. They just needed to build their roster and get it to a place where they could compete. And now they're near the top of the league. And so I think that is something that's really great for the NWSL, is that every coach now can go to their club and say, look, like, we have a plan in place. Look at X club. Look at the Utah Royals. We don't want it to be 3 or 4 years. We want to do it quickly, but we can build that. And I think that's exciting about the NWSL, and is a big reason why I love being a part of it.
Yep. Denver, as a first-year club, they're pushing 500 after 11 matches. They're middle of the table. Obviously, Boston's having some growing pains there as well. Growing pains, racing Louisville and Chicago as well. But at the top of the table, you mentioned Utah. And we're going to take a little bit of credit, because when Jarrett moved out to Salt Lake City, that was beginning of this season, then they've gone on their run. So we're taking Jarrett's move from here to go to RSL and be a part of things there with the Royals and RSL as to why they're now where they are in the table. San Diego, Utah, Portland, all separated by a point. Then Washington. You figured Washington, with all multiple competitions and traveling and national team and all that kind of stuff, you figured they're going to be there. They're 21 points. A lot of folks at 21. Washington, Gotham, and Current. I think Current finally woke up. 6-0 at home.
Yes. And Washington, you mentioned, everyone at the beginning was like, oh no, through like 4 games, they had a tie here, a loss there. What is happening in Washington? And I was like, everyone's like, just relax. Like, it's going to be fine. Let's not be crazy. And they've done it. And Adriana Gonzalez, great coach, got them together. They have a good roster. They had to figure out how to operate without Croy in midfield. They had to just figure out a few things there with their team. They've done it. And the Kansas City Current as well. It was not good. Theirs was a little bit scarier, I think, than Washington's. It went a little bit longer, but Showinga was out. And she is a complete difference maker. When you have a goal scorer like that, it can change everything. And that's exactly what's happened. How much has really changed about their team since they were losing to now? Not a lot, besides Chowinga being back in. Yes, I'm sure they've adapted. Chris Armas was able to do some things here and there. But you get a player like that back in, everyone walks a little taller, everyone feels a little more comfortable, and you can start rolling.
See, this is where I need you to get the whiteboard, because if we were – well, I'm serious, because I was going to dive into at some point a Showinga discussion about how you go against someone like that. If you're an opposing coach, how do you try to figure out how to neutralize her? And that was where the whiteboard, and either it's a whiteboard and you drawing on it, or a whiteboard with metal.
I had a tactics board the entire TST tournament, and I haven't used a tactics board in over a year. And I was tactics boarding it up with my whiteboard, and I like the magnets better, but we didn't have those. You can just move them more so my crazy mind can move quicker. But yeah, we'll have to do that sometime. I need to get a new one. I don't actually have a tactics board, but maybe I'll invest in one for you.
Is Owen happy mommy's home?
He is, and I'm actually dog sitting my friend's dog. She's working the World Cup, so I have him for another week, and they're playing in the background. So I keep kind of like muting myself and coming back on because they're playing.
It doesn't matter to us. We're always a dog-friendly environment anyway. I had this vision of you muting because they were breaking like a vase of yours in the back.
No, it was just like lapping up water and then a toy, and then so I just was muting in and off, on and off.
Whatever, that doesn't matter. Glad you're home. Glad you got to do things with your dad and globetrot. I don't know.
I think you can say it either way.
Fine, we are now. Glad you're back home. Glad you catch your breath. Obviously, we'll catch up with you again next week. We'll talk national teams and all those kinds of things. It's great to see you as always. Don't be a stranger, and crash at any time. If you want to vent your spleen on anything going on with this tournament, literally, you know where the garage door opener is.
Perfect. I love that. Thanks for having me.
All
Good
right,
to talk to you.
there goes Casey D. And Casey D, where she be? She be at home. Literally trying to catch up with her in environments, hotel rooms. They're encased in concrete. It's good to catch up with Casey D. Morning, David. Morning, Michael. Morning, Alex. Alex letting us know about what's going on in Marietta with the Marietta Square and the watch party Friday night. Morning, Wiley. Morning, Dell. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Ropes. Yeah, could you imagine the Icelandics taking home Toomer's Lemonade? And you know that the folks at Auburn would let that happen. Morning, Ropes. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Alex. So that's where we are with Kacey D. Karn Saxena coming in from our friends at Fanpath coming up here in just a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll re-educate. For those that might have missed, you get to simulate your favorite country's travel path. You're looking for friends that might have shared interests. You're looking for housing and tickets and trips and fan community and the whole thing. You get a simulator that can help you out, and it's at usefanpath.com. But we're going to reorient you about all of this, and Karn has let us know about some things as we're getting close to the tournament that if you are still trying to find your way, find your path, hey, I want to travel, hey, I want to do this, and I want to do this, then it's an opportunity to go ahead and make sure that you are in the best place humanly possible to try to map out all of your travel. And you get to do that with our friends at Fanpath, and use fanpath.com with our friend Karn Saxena. So it'll be coming up here in just a little bit. We mentioned what's going on with Jim Curtin. Once again, that's at 11:30. And that is in Austin, Texas. So we get to find out what's going on there with him, what attracted him to the gig, and what you're hanging out with. And it's like, all right, so what attracted you? What are you looking for? What are you looking at with this roster? And how are things going to go with this roster with you? What are you going to be doing? And I imagine that it's going to be one of those things with Curtin that he is going to be looking at the roster for the you come back from the World Cup break. He's going to be looking at the roster. I imagine that the number of cutaways that will be with Jim Curtin are going to be in the probably plus 2.5 range for Jim Curtin. And it is going to be an idea with Jim of, I just have this, and considering he looks like a librarian anyway, he'll probably be in the upper deck underneath or inside the press box at Q2. And it will be glasses, and he'll either have the keyboard ready, and he'll just be keyboard warrioring his way through, banging around. It's like, okay, there's a note. There's a note. Or he's going to be old school about it, and it will be him sitting there going, there's a note, and you write it on a notepad. I don't know if he's going to be writing on notepads or if he's going to be entering stuff onto a keyboard. But I would anticipate almost like spring training, maybe like the John Thorrington kind of thing, where he was standing atop the press box like he was Batman at BMO Stadium, taking notes that way. I would anticipate. I don't think Jim Curtin, I don't think it can handle weight. I'm trying to remember the roof of the press box at Q2. And I don't think it can handle weight on top of it to the extent that, we would sit there and go, yeah, that'll work. He just stands there and he's taking notes. It would have to be one of two things. I think he would be either in an empty seat at the 50 in the 200 section, just underneath the press box, or in his own booth in the press box taking notes. But I would anticipate that the over-under on the idea of taking notes for Jim Curtin, that's going to be a topic that he is going to be looked at. Hey, and here's Jim Curtin. He's taking over at the end of this season. Everyone's in an audition right now. And so you see him taking notes. You'll see the glasses. The glasses will come off. He'll put them down. He'll take a note, sit there. He'll look down the field, take a note. He'll go, He'll take a note, and he'll wander back and forth with all of that. And now I'm anticipating, like I said, I am anticipating that it would be something like that. That you'll have the plus 2.5 on the over-under when it comes to notes and such, and him taking notes. I don't know if it'll be the furrowed brow. He takes the glasses off. You kind of rub the temple a little bit, kind of sit there and rub the bridge of his nose, put the glasses back on. I imagine if he's frustrated, which has happened more often than not, if you're a fan of the Verdang, right, that it would be that kind of a move. But I just anticipate the over-under on cutaways of Jim Curtin at 2.5. And I'm guessing that he's going to be riding onto either a touch screen or he's going to be riding onto a legal pad. I don't anticipate him banging into a keyboard as he's taking his notes on Austin getting ready for everything. So, like I said, that's just my gut. That's my gut when it comes to what we're looking at with Jim Curtin and Austin. So, like I said, that's just my gut feeling for what we're looking at when it comes to him taking over. Press conference coming up less than an hour, 11:30 Eastern time. We'll have notes on that tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, it's going to be Dylan Butler and Bart Keeler joining us tomorrow to discuss what was going on with what happened on various things involving the national team, and Bart's going to look at the women's team and the men's team and get ready for this upcoming week. We'll talk to him about the goalie situation and all the other stuff, and we'll get ready for match number 1 with Paraguay. Like I said, with Kacey, I don't think we have I don't think we've got a final note on Julio and Ciso yet, but I think it's 2 to 3 weeks was the initial thought. And so initially there was thought that it was more serious than it was, but it's now just a muscle contusion. So they're thinking 2 to 3 weeks. Don't know if he'll be in any kind of shape to get minutes Friday at SoFi against the United States. But we will we'll find out with the roster releases and all those kinds of things. All right, so hang on just a second. All right, so let me get you into what's going on at CF Montreal. And it's from our friend Jeremy Filosa. And for those that don't know Jeremy is has been part of the Montreal press corps for a long time. 98.5 Sports, Blue Jays podcast, play-by-play, you name it, he does it. Based out of Montreal. And so yesterday, word was coming out of the weekend. Here's what Jeremy said about CF Montreal, remembering the conversations that we had about Don Garber when he watched and he was there and he had the hard hat picture taken on top of the Big O as it's being renovated. Quoting Filosa, this weekend I made several calls to numerous contacts, several others who were passed along to me. This week will be very, very pivotal week for the future of CF Montreal. The National Assembly will be on summer break starting Friday until mid-September. Time is for the essence for the team. According to my sources, it must make its intentions known to Major League Soccer for the winter schedule by the end of this summer. Only 2 options, the Big O or a relocation. According to Filosa's information, 2 cities in the southern United States are regularly inquiring with the commissioner's office about the situation at the Olympic Stadium. If it comes to that, MLS will go all in. My guess is that's probably Indianapolis and Vegas. If the government waits until fall to make its intentions known, it could be too late. Filosa continues, let's remember that the team already needs to find a place to play in the playoffs this fall. Same for the mini winter season in 2027. The commissioner is ready to make concessions to accommodate Montreal temporarily in terms of the schedule, in the sprint schedule, and the conversion, fall of 27, winter of 28. But only if the work moves forward at the stadium. From what I understand, this is Jeremy Filosa, even if the full budget isn't dispersed now, there could be a way to salvage the situation by doing the most urgent work in hopes of securing the rest of the funding later. I couldn't stress enough, we're at the 11th hour on this filing. Major League Soccer hopes for a positive resolution, but is also prepared for the darkest scenario, hoping that solutions can be found right now. So Jeremy is saying that time is of the essence when it comes to making sure that CF Montreal stays in Montreal and can navigate the schedule flip with Stade Saputo and the development of the Big O 2.0 and being able to stay there. Because that was why we played the sound bites that we did, where Don Garber's discussing the Montreal situation, and he's discussing currently what's up with Vancouver at the time when he was having the press conference in Montreal, because we know that Vancouver has an ownership inquiry in taking the team away from Vancouver, moving it to Vegas. We know that that's in line already. And when Jeremy says in his discussion that southern United States, 2 cities in the southern United States, what is interpreted as southern United States in Canada versus what we refer to here in the United States could be 2 entirely different things. That's why I mentioned Indianapolis and Las Vegas. Because if you take the southern United States, you cut it in half, technically Vegas is in the southern half and Indy is kind of close. I don't know who else would be. New Orleans? We were discussing this in our WhatsApp group about who it could be. And it was like, southern United States. Like I said, that's why we were thinking Vegas, meaning south, because it literally is if you were to take a line and cut it in half. And then Indy, which is kind of right there. I don't know. New Orleans, where would they play? Is somebody willing to build a stadium? We've had guests on in the past about USL Championship and USL League One going to New Orleans and being attached to the old Zephyr Stadium, those kinds of things. So that's kind of what we're staring at. Ropes with a question. Who does everyone think the new manager post World Cup will be when Poch heads off into the sunset? A lot of folks are thinking BJ Callahan, actually. But that is the $9,000 question. Who is it going to be? A lot of folks were thinking BJ Callahan, legitimately. That's what they were thinking. So that's what you're looking at there. And while we are okay, so now we do have a little bit of this. And so we have, once again, notes going forward here. And this was also one of the questions that we had for Canada's roster. It has been resolved. Jaden Nelson is the answer to the question. Austin FC's Jaden Nelson selected to replace Marcelo Flores on the Can MNT's roster for the upcoming World Cup. So Jaden Nelson in. Marcelo Flores, obviously, with the injury that happened in the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. You knew that spot was needing to be filled. So now Flores out, Jaden Nelson in. Now, as to the conversation that we had yesterday, and we played with the conversation with Matthew Cianidi of TSN and Jesse Marsh from the Island Airport in Toronto. They were going to give Moise Bombito until the absolute last possible minute to figure out, okay, what's the deal? And so now officially the deal is that Jaden Nelson is one of the answers. Nelson in, Marcelo Flores out, still waiting on Moise Bombito. Jesse Marsh had said yesterday that they're going to give Bombito up until the absolute end to come up with an answer. It had been reported days previous that Bombito was out. And then what do you do? And I think there were 2 names now that could be attached to that spot if Bombito cannot go. So that's kind of what you're looking at with the men's national team with Canada. That came out at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And so you've got the Jaden Nelson answer, and I'm looking at, that was the pinned. Okay, so we still do not have anything official on Bombito, a decision one way or the other. And they had the big rally yesterday in downtown Toronto, but we have one of our answers where the Canadian men's national team is concerned. It is Nelson in for Flores. That was the easiest one. So we're still waiting on Moise Bombito, and we'll still have answer there. Michael is asking, is Montreal's leaving Stade Saputo? They might have to, out of necessity. And it's two things kind of working at once, because what Major League Soccer wants to avoid is what has been happening in the past, where CF Montreal has been playing like their first 2 months away from home. With the schedule change, you might be in danger of that being even longer. So that is why the Big O, the Olympic Stadium, is undergoing this $800 million renovation, where they have taken the umbrella. The tower is still there. They've taken the umbrella out. They've kind of they've shaved the top, and it's where it's at an angle now. And what they're looking at is putting a glass top on. But right now, where the Olympic Stadium is, there are cranes in the air and all this kind of stuff. So it would be out of necessity, because I don't think Joey Saputo wants to spend the money to renovate and have the team kind of play, because you'd have to find time to renovate and play Stade Saputo, and you can't do that simultaneously. And there really isn't another venue in Montreal, Quebec, where you can play right now. So CF Montreal is just kind of sitting and playing at Stade Saputo while they're looking at the renovation of the Olympic Stadium, so that can handle playing in all kinds of weather, where Stade Saputo, because it doesn't have a top, can't. And so that's kind of where we are when it comes to the idea of CF Montreal and Stade Saputo versus the Olympic Stadium and CF Montreal. And so 28-29 is when they were looking at CF Montreal moving into the Big O 2.0 and leaving Stade Saputo behind. So if they do, it would be not for another couple of seasons, but the league is willing to make an allowance for CF Montreal if the stadium continues to be built and the cranes are in the air and they finish the project. I probably should have not put the Don Garber sound bites back into the hopper. But let me see if I can load the Don Garber sound bites so we can let you know where he's coming from here. So if we find, and this is last week when Don Garber was making the tour, and like I said, there's sound from Don Garber after he took the tour of the Olympic Stadium and its renovations and such. So I'm loading that sound right now. So we'll go back to 4 days ago on Friday, and let me see if we can find the right one when it comes to Don Garber discuss, because the third one had to do with Vancouver specifically, and he didn't have an update. So here's what Don Garber was saying at the time about the situation in Montreal.
The history of the club is well established, but the opportunity now is to build for a new future. Every great city, regardless of what challenges they're dealing with, faces a choice, whether to preserve its legacy or build upon it. The best cities, they do both. And that's the opportunity that the city of Montreal has today. What I saw when I toured the stadium was just incredible. It was an incredible vision for the province, for the park, for the city, and for a soccer market that absolutely loves the game. Montreal deserves a world-class stadium that reflects the ambition of the city and represents its future on a global stage. This is a purpose-driven plan, one that goes beyond sports and speaks to how Montreal sees itself in the decades ahead on the global stage, and I love that. If this vision can be fully realized, Montreal will have one of the great stadiums in the entire world. That might sound ambitious and might sound a little odd for all of you who've been living with the Olympic Stadium since the Olympics, but great cities pursue ambitious projects, and what I saw today was absolutely remarkable. The full renovation of the city, not just the roof, but the entire stadium, is a great moment in the history of the city, in the history of sport in the city, and it will carry the park forward. And while CF Montreal is an important part of this renewed vision, this project is bigger than just soccer. A fully renovated and complete Olympic Stadium has the potential to elevate the city of Montreal as a global destination, even beyond what it is today, for sports, for entertainment, and for major international events, even more than the great events that you do now.
And so that was one. Now, this other one is kind of Don Garber pushing Montreal in a direction and encouraging them to continue what they're doing with the Big O. Here's his other soundbite that we pulled from that press conference.
Yeah, well, my understanding is that the stadium reached out to the club and said, be a part of our dream, be a part of our vision, be our primary tenant. We're going to put up a new roof, and I saw it there. And if you haven't been there, I think you've seen renditions. That was one of the coolest stadium visits I've ever had. I've been commissioner through the building of 26 stadiums in North America. Go tour around that thing. It's one of the most remarkable engineering feats that I've ever seen. When they reached out to the club, they said, be part of this. And all we're trying to do is say, complete the project. We know it's not going to happen until 28 or 29. The team is willing to manage that. We've got a beautiful stadium here. We've got what could be a world-class global facility over there. Get it done, and everything will be great.
Maybe how are you and how are MLS committed to keeping the team here in Montreal?
We're committed to keeping every team. You know, you need to have the factors that ensure you have the building blocks and the foundation for success. But right now, our goal is to finalize a deal over there, get the public to finish. I mean, it's like building a house and putting on a roof and not having a fixed foundation or fixed, rooms when you're renovating a house. Makes no sense to me. I understand there were challenges there were safety issues, but what's a new roof on a building that's not proper to be able to capture the opportunity, not just for CF Montreal, as I said in my remarks, for the entire city. You all know what that building is like. I was there, by the way. Most of you don't know this. I was part of the international business at the NFL. I was here in 1990 for a NFL American Bowl game. I've been in that stadium many, many years ago, and I've been in that stadium during the CONCACAF Champions League final with Club America and Montreal. That stadium can be brilliant. So just finish the job.
That stadium can be brilliant. Just finish the job. That's what Don Garber said. That was the tail end for me was what that just finish the job. So yes, the stadium has been a boondoggle forever. Going into all of the issues with the umbrella and the fabric that have been torn multiple times, the umbrella jamming and the pulley system locked in place where they couldn't retract and they couldn't put the tarp back down to cover the center hole to where precipitation couldn't come through. And then when they did at times, it would still leak. So it is something that if Montreal is serious as a city about not just CF Montreal, mind you, but other things. And we are efforting John Still from the CF Montreal broadcast team to come in and discuss this, especially now that Jeremy has moved the story forward. If you're serious about it, which apparently it looks like, Montreal is like I said, there are pictures, cranes in the air, the whole thing. It has been a boondoggle forever. And so this is an opportunity, should Montreal want to continue to go down this path, as Garber wants them to turn the Big O 2.0 into something that can be just more than CF Montreal, even though CF Montreal would be the primary tenant, as you heard Don Garber just say there. So that's what you're looking at with the Big O and the Big O 2.0. And that's where they are. And like I said, we're efforting John Still from the CF Montreal broadcast team to kind of break this down for us here as a part of our news and notes and things. So that's where CF Montreal is. But if the provincial government and if Jeremy Filos's mind, if they don't boogie, it could be an opportunity lost with CF Montreal. And as Filosa mentioned, two teams in the, quote, southern United States. Like I said, I think that's two cities. I still think that's Indy and Vegas. I don't know where else you think it could be that would fit a market dynamic that is either like an Austin which Anthony Precourt got correct, except for the size of the stadium, or a large city that is a top 20 market where Vegas to me is on the verge of oversaturation. It really is. And you've got Bill Foley, who wants to renovate T-Mobile Arena to the tune of $300 million to bring in an NBA franchise. You have the ownership, the proposed ownership group that wants to buy the Vancouver Whitecaps and move them to Vegas. I imagine they'd have to play at Allegiant because, you know, if you want to build your own barn, that's going to take a while. So there are some things in play here, and the markets are dwindling. So Nielsen TV markets. Let's go down this path here for a second. So media markets that do not have a Major League Soccer franchise. Tampa at 11. I don't think the Rowdies are going to move or do anything to change that. Detroit is not in the southern United States, but they want to be probably in USL Premier. Then you've got, let's see, who am I missing here? Cleveland is not southern U.S. They're going the USL route. Sacramento, not southern U.S. They're in the USL. They're building a new stadium. And the American Indian influence is going to build that stadium. Would Sacramento be ready at some point? Kevin Nagel tried, but at the Rail Yards project kept missing deadlines after he filed the initial paperwork to go in and kind of reserve the idea of Sacramento to Major League Soccer. Let's see. Charlotte is in. Raleigh-Durham is USL at number 22. Indy is at 25. They would be the highest southern U.S. market using Jeremy Filos's wording. Pittsburgh is USL. Baltimore, I don't know if you'd want to be. I don't know about Baltimore. We know what Annapolis brings to the table in the NPSL with the Blues. I don't know if Baltimore wants to take away, and you know that Washington, the D.C. market, would sit there and probably raise their hand a bit. San Diego is in. San Antonio is number 31, but then that would give you 4 franchises in Texas, and you probably would have to expand Toyota Field. But I think that San Antonio right now is happy with what's going on in USL Championship. Hartford is in USL Championship at 32. Austin has moved up 15 market spots in a handful of years. They went from like top 50 to now number 34. Columbus, Ohio, you've got Crew. Greenville seems to be happy with League One at 36. Milwaukee is going USL at 38. West Palm Fort Pierce is 39. Vegas is 40. Jacksonville at 41. They've got all their busy work going on in USL on both the men's and the women's side. Norfolk, Portsmouth, Newport News is 44. Birmingham's at 45. I don't think that you could right now support an MLS franchise in Birmingham at Protective. Greensboro at 46. Oklahoma City's building their new stadium at 47. It might be them. It's a 9-figure thing, but they're aiming at USL. Albuquerque and New Mexico United at 48. Louisville and New Orleans at 50. So really you're looking at New Orleans, Oklahoma City, Vegas, and Indy in the top 50 markets. Just if you're looking at that as your baseline. So we'll see what it is, but that's the latest involving what's going on with CF Montreal and going down that path. All right, gossip, rumor, and innuendo. We'll go over headlines and get you ready, and we'll try and reschedule Karn Saxena at Fanpath. Might be tomorrow at 10:30. But like I said, Bart and Dylan set to join us tomorrow. Bart's going to talk about men's and women's national team stuff, and then it's going to be Dylan talking about Jim Curtin and all the things and getting ready for that, and probably national team stuff there as well. Okay, so gossip, rumor, and innuendo, since we already talked about what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Remember, tonight on ESPN and ESPN Deportes is the matchup in Auburn. The boss and I will be leaving somewhat soon to go there, treating it like a college football game. So leaving here middle of the afternoon, getting ready for the mid-evening kick, spending the night. So tomorrow we'll be in a hotel room in Auburn. Not today, tomorrow, because getting out of an 82,000-seat stadium and all the traffic that's associated and going on, we're not traveling back to Atlanta. That's not happening. So that was not gonna work. So also we've got, all right, so sizing up soccer, let the games begin. We got warm-ups, we got things. Let's see, the Real Madrid elections, we know about Florentino Perez, so I would anticipate that Jose Mourinho gets named. $15 million heading to Benfica. And so here we go. Rumors, United and City have joined the race to land Marc Cucurella, according to Mundo Deportivo. Report claims that both Premier League sides, among several teams monitoring the situation, he said to prefer a switch to Barca. Any potential move to the Camp Nou hinges on whether they can offload Alejandro Balda. Blues would be willing to accept an offer of around £50 million to sign Cucurella, on the radar of Real Madrid and Atleti. City also weighing up a move for Everton winger Iliman Ndiaye, according to the four-letter paper. Club reported to be in talks regarding a deal for the 26-year-old Senegalese international, ID'd as a potential replacement for Spurs-linked Savinho, 6+3 in 32 Premier League matches last year, remains contracted until the summer of 29. United tracking Internazionale striker Pio Esposito, according to Team Talk, reported that the 20-year-old watched by scouts during the friendly over Greece, and a possibility of a swap deal involving Joshua Zirkzee as the Nerazzurri are admirers of him. He's expected to leave Old Trafford this summer. Esposito is reportedly being tracked by Arsenal, Chelsea, and Spurs as well. Real Madrid made contact with Chelsea regarding a move for Enzo Fernandez, according to the four-letter paper. Los Blancos reported to have made an initial inquiry for the 25-year-old. Sources telling ESPN, Premier League club willing to part ways if they receive an offer worth £120 million. Fernandez's future at Stamford Bridge uncertain, since he spoke about living in Spain's capital city, which led him to being linked and internally suspended by Liam Rosenior. He's been linked with Manchester City and PSG. Real Madrid want to keep hold of Aurelien Tchouameni amid interest from Manchester United. The three-letter paper reports incoming head coach Jose Mourinho has informed the club's hierarchy of his desire to keep hold of the 26-year-old, linked with an exit following an altercation with Federico Valverde. Red Devils expected to pursue other options as they remain intent on making further additions in the midfield, with Brighton's Carlos Baleba keen on a move to Old Trafford. We mentioned Alexia Putellas and London City. Keep an eye on that. Spurs advancing talks to sign Savinho for a fee of around £60 million. Confident that the winger wants to join. As ESPN Brazil reported last week, negotiations continuing with City over the structure of an agreement. Fabrizio Romano, relegated West Ham, set to demand an offer worth £85 million to sign Matheus Fernandes. Manchester United remain in contact. Nicolo Schira, Al Hilal suffered a setback in their pursuit of Rafinha and Rafa Leao. Both players have turned down a move, and Juve are expected to begin talks with reps of Real Madrid winger Brahim Diaz in the coming days amid hopes of convincing him to join the club. BBC, we mentioned Josko Vardiol and Manchester City. Fabrizio Romano, Newcastle fallen behind in the race for Atalanta right back Marco Palestra. Internazionale in talks regarding a €45 million deal. Nicolo Schira. Juve want to sign Emi Martinez from Villa, previously looking at Liverpool's Alisson. Florian Plettenberg at Sky Germany. Leverkusen remain keen on Hertha Berlin midfielder Kenneth Eichhorn. Could be prepared to pursue a loan deal if he goes to the Premier League. Wolves hopeful of reuniting with Fulham striker Raul Jimenez on a free, set to leave the Cottagers when his contract expires this summer. That is both Express and Star. PSG's Randall Colomawani on loan at Spurs last season, keen on a switch to Juve, according to Tuttosport. Newcastle closing in on an £18.5 million move for Reims goalkeeper Ewan Zhaoen. That's from the Telegraph. Gianluca Di Marzio, Juve have agreed to personal terms with Atletico de Madrid striker Alexander Sorloth. Talks continuing to lock in a transfer fee. And Fabrizio Romano says that Como are lining up a move for two left backs in Borussia Dortmund's Jan Couto and Cruzeiro's Kaique. I just like saying Kaique. So that is the up-to-date names, notes, and news that we have for folks wandering over. My watch just died, so that's what you see me doing here, trying to figure out what way the charger fits into the laptop. So finally got it to work after all this time. So, all right, so the watch is charging. A couple of other things. Let's see what else we might have missed before we get out of here. And then once again, back at it tonight. Atlanta Soccer tonight is happening at 10 o'clock. And so keep an eye out for all of that. Yes, there is a John Texter update. And if you have the Morning Espresso, you'd find out all about it. Go to soccerdownhere.net. You get Jason's thoughts on all the news that he finds in the overnight, stuff to keep an eye on during the day, stuff that we don't get the chance to get into even with a 2-hour program. Now, a board of directors at Eagle Football Group SA, the holding company. They filed a criminal complaint with the public prosecutor in Lyon against persons unknown following an internal investigation into the management of Lyon between May of 23 and June of 25. That management period corresponds directly to the tenure of John Textor. Complaint stems, so once again, Board of Directors of Eagle, the holding company that owns Lyon, announced it's filed a criminal complaint with the public prosecutor in Lyon against persons unknown. Time frame in the internal investigation and management links with John Textor's time. But remember, he's been pushed out of the company. Complaint stems from an external investigation commissioned last December, submitted to the company earlier this month. Report concludes deliberate disorganization of Lyon's operations paired with systematic opacity in financial management, hundreds of millions of euros in financial transactions that appear to have been executed without clear economic justification. The report notes that all this was happening during periods of severe cash flow crisis and delays in paying Social Security contributions. The filing alleges potential offenses, including misuse of corporate assets, falsification of financial statements, and dissemination of misleading information in the market. When you say in French criminal procedures against persons unknown, that's normal. But if you can put the math together, and it seems like it is aimed at John Textor. French criminal process is going to take their own time, but Lyon has filed a suit against persons unidentified and unknown. So keep an eye out for that. Another couple of quick things. Omar Abdulkadir Artan, the 2025 CAF Men's Referee of the Year, FIFA selected official for the tourney, denied entry to the U.S. at Miami International Airport over the weekend. Somalia is among countries on the current travel ban list. FIFA confirmed Artan will not be able to participate, said it's not involved in host country immigration decisions. Artan responded with grace, wishing his colleagues well and promising to keep improving. We mentioned Jurrien Timber and his injury at right back. Groin injury. Geertruida is replacing Jurrien Timber. He is out for the tournament. Also, Ronald Araujo for Uruguay traveled to Madrid for stem cell treatment on a calf injury, expected to miss Uruguay's opener against Saudi Arabia on the 16th, targeting the match against Cabo Verde on the 21st. Flamengo issued a formal statement criticizing the Uruguayan Federation's handling of Diarasqueta's recovery from a clavicle fracture, saying agreed medical protocols were not followed. Diarasqueta will miss the start of the tournament. Today, once again, remember, tonight, Atlanta Soccer Tonight live, 10 o'clock, 92.9 The Game on the Odyssey app, 92.9 YouTube channel. Marking the calendars. Once again, we're at Mazzy's in Duluth. AST is from 6 to 8. We'll be there in some form or fashion in numbers. Once again, ahead of the World Cup opener against Paraguay. So tonight, 10 o'clock, 92.9 The Game, Odyssey app, 92.9 YouTube channel. And then at 11 o'clock, everything moves over. The three-dimensional experience sticks with the YouTube channel, and that's going to be at 11 o'clock. Before we get you out of here, here's your AST flashback from last night, discussing Spain and what they face here in the tournament as a favorite.
It's a collective, and that's classic Spanish football. We've seen this really since the 2008 European Championship win. Now, the style has evolved. It's not the same tiki-taka, which, look, if you compare the 2008 European Championship winners for Spain to the 2012 version, they were very different. Similar players, many of the same ones, but that team had gotten older, and that team used possession in more of a defensive way. The 2008 version, a little more of an offensive style. This Spain, I think, is more of that offensive style. Now, how strong is that offense? We're going to have to wait and see. Lamine Yamal, Nico Williams, Victor Munoz, they did not travel to Puebla for this game. They stayed in Chattanooga, and that's another one of these stories that's just amazing. Lamine Yamal hanging out in Chattanooga, Tennessee, getting ready for a World Cup where they go in as one of the favorites. Kids in Chattanooga had a chance to see Lamine Yamal at an open training session, one of the best young players in the world. That's going to inspire those kids who saw that for the rest of their soccer journeys. Like, that's what's just unbelievable about this. The World Cup is in 16 cities, but it's in so many more than that. The effects are going to be felt so much wider than just those 16 cities. So, Jamal and Williams, it sounds like they're getting closer. Jamal's been dealing with a hamstring injury since the end of Barcelona's season. He missed the friendly against Iraq, the 1-1 draw in La Coruña last Thursday. De La Fuente, the manager, he did update reporters upon arriving in Puebla yesterday. He said all three, Munoz, Williams, and Jamal, they're all within the expected timelines to arrive for the game a week from tonight in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, or Atlanta Stadium for those of you who want to follow that one. The most important thing about those guys and where they stand right now for De La Fuente is this is what they expected. You haven't had any setbacks. You haven't had any slower recoveries. This is what they expected coming in. Everything is as planned right now. He expects them to be available for the Cabo Verde match.
Atlanta Soccer tonight, 92.9 The Game on the Odyssey app, the three-dimensional experience, all World Cup long, every night. You will have Atlanta Soccer tonight. Hour number 1, 92.9 The Game, Odyssey app, 92.9 YouTube channel. 11 o'clock hour, stoppage time, 92.9 The Game YouTube channel. And that's kind of how it's going to be with a 10 o'clock start time with AST during the tournament. A couple of other quick notes. Raul Jimenez has now agreed to rejoin Wolves on a free, and the agreement is in principle for Pierre Sage to join Crystal Palace on a 3-year deal from Ligue 1. So, once again, tonight, reports from the plains. Keep an eye out on your socials. And we probably will run into Michael Head and family just because you could be in 82 to 87,000 folks, and the folks that you know, they always gravitate towards you. It's going to be great to see everybody tonight. We're heading that way in a couple hours. And for any and all aspects of everything, set your notifications for everything SDH. Subscribe to Morning Espresso, the newsletter, if you haven't done it already. Soccerdownhere.net is where all of our content is. Scroll down. There's a box. Put in your email. Hit send, and then you get Morning Espresso every single day. So that'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world, not just World Cup based, but everything going on in the world of soccer, as evidenced by our John Texter update as well. So back at it again from a hotel room in Auburn. Tomorrow morning, 9:05 Eastern, 8:05 in God's time zone. Just ask the boss. We'll let you know what happened at Jordan Hare last night. We'll have a lot of the atmosphere on social media, and we'll back at it again tomorrow with Bart and with Dylan and possibly Karn Saxena from our friends at usefanpath.com. We'll catch up with Karn, and we'll get things squared away with him. My guess is, because Karn talks to us from like half a world away, my guess is that he forgot there was a time change from the last time we talked. So we'll catch up with Karn, and we'll let you know what's going on with Fanpath coming up around the corner. Thanks to Casey D. Thanks to Dwight Smith at MARTA. And thanks to everybody at U.S. Soccer for helping us out. Jason is down at the Arthur M. Blank U.S. Soccer National Training Center today. The U19s are wrapping up camp. A couple of familiar faces are on the U19 roster. Next week, or actually starting later this week, is the Women's CP National camp, and you've got another couple of Georgia players that are attached to the USCP MNT camp for the women's side as they get ready for the international tournament that is going to be at the Arthur M. Blank National Training Center in October, I believe. So CP World Tournament is going to be in Fayetteville in October, and we're probably going to blow that up too. So thanks to all of you for being a part of everything. Thanks to Michael. Thanks to Ropes. Thanks to David. Thanks to Alex. Thanks to Ricky. And I'm trying to see if I've missed anything. Wiley and Dell, and help Dell get into the Discord, and Ricky and Alex and Ropes. All right, that's just a small sample of what's going on here this morning. Jim Curtin press conference coming up in about 17 minutes. We'll have that for you tomorrow as well. So for everybody here at SDH, thanks for hanging out with us as you always do. For all of you there and all of us here, we'll be back at it again soon enough because there's a lot to talk about. World Cup coming up around the corner. World Cup fever. Catch it. That's not their slogan, but it was close. Since it's the end of the show, Mucha Platiel, play it safe. It means you get to do this. See you at Auburn tonight, and we will see you back here tomorrow morning, 9:05 Eastern, a little less than 22 hours. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this.